Mm, I will say, your perception seems to be not the best. And you are, very, extremely shit at doing your rope work. But, God, you're really good at making pancakes. Mm-hmm. And this, it's a little rich for my taste. Like, literally. But, like, it's really good syrup. Thank you. Fine, fine. I can't even compliment your work anymore. Hmm. Oh, the things truly change that much when that little lights out of your eyes when you look at me. Fine, fine, fine. I'll talk about it. So, where to start? Where to start? I suppose I should start him before I got kidnapped. Um, Me and my family, we we lived up in Canada. I won't tell you the province, doesn't really matter for the story. Canada, we have less crime generally. Um, and very, very rarely is there kidnapping incidents, especially of the Caucasian variety. Um, but on one day, walking home from school, cutting a little shortcut through this little, what was it, ice rink. My brother had already moved by, but I took a bit more attention from something. I don't even remember it. Must have been a bug or something. I don't remember. What I do is that suddenly I'd be lifted up from the ground. What? What do you do? I'm shocked. So, when I would next wake up, would it be, this broken down little place? Man with a knife. Honestly, you pulling one is nostalgic. In the worst way, but it's still nostalgic. Um, and then I'd be threatened. Now, child, you ain't gonna be, yelling or doing anything. Or you gonna be having some fun with a little knife here, eh? It's a quality time. So, you good with me to take off that little gang? Mm-hmm. You know, a normal kid would, would probably have still screamed. I didn't. The kid's actually well behaved. Guess that's how it is for rich folk. No, I just don't want to get caught. I'm pretty sure that's pretty logical. The fuck? Well, hey, makes our job easier. We have a good kid on our hands. And if they're a good kid, pretty sure we'll have an easier time getting the ransom. Anyway, child, is there any preference that you want to eat here? Hmm. Why are you letting me choose my food? Well, in case you're gonna be, well behaved, it's best for us to give a little bit of a reward for that. Ain't that logical? I suppose so. Is there any McDonald's or something? That seems like it'd be good. Oh, so the rich kid eats just like us, eh? Sure, I'll be easy enough to pick up. Now, I'm sure you understand, but we're gonna have to gag you again, eh? Alright, understood. This kid's a bit of a freak, ain't they? During the entire thing, I I didn't feel scared. I should have, right? Maybe another person would chalk it up to shock, but I was 7. I didn't even have the word in my vocabulary. Still, I waited and observed what they were doing. You sure we can still wait here? Come now, they got the gag on. It's not like they're gonna be blabbing to anyone. It's just... boss. Like, they've already got the cops going. I know we anticipated that, but still... Yeah. Jesse does need that treatment. Fine. I'll just... Should I board up the windows more, boss? Fine. We'll leave it inconspicuous, if you say so. A few things like that caught my ear. They've always kept making statements like this. The original knife guy was that one. The big boss I didn't see around much, but he kept trying to dedicate them. There was a third guy, too. Never saw him much. Always brought the food, though. Never silent. I tried to get in the dog. Thank you for the food. Is there any suggestions that you'd suggest for me food in the future? Why aren't you talking? Oh, are you mute? I don't know ASL, so sorry. No. I'm just not talking to the cargo. And that's all I got from them. I think I would later learn their names, but those aren't important. A few days went like that. I think it was 7. No, 7.5. I was always dutifully behaved. At least as they said it. I saw no reason to break out, or any reason to go through. No reason to risk my life. But, on the 7.5 day, well... What? Okay, shit. Oh, okay, this gave away. It gave way. Good. Okay, shit, that's gunfire, I think. This closet here. Okay, into it I go, I guess. Fuck, closets and stuff. Oh, that's a gag. Where did they go? Wait. They couldn't have moved far. They gotta be over here. There you are, kid. Just stay where you are. Everything's gonna be okay. And there he was. Dead. Right in front of me. Saw him through the crack. But, I still didn't feel anything. Eventually the police came in, all guarded up, and they found me. Oh, wow, that... Oh, poor child. Yeah, here, focus on me, okay? Focus on me. Everything's alright. Just focus on me. We got you. You're safe. I promise. I followed her gaze, I guess, but never too much. I think, I heard a few words from them in the corner when they didn't think I was hearing them. George, they must have seen them. We're gonna have to make a recommendation for therapy. Yes, Sanj. What child would be okay? Not even through this scenario, but seeing one dead body right in front of them. They likely died in front of them too. What kid would be alright with that? What child indeed, I thought. And of course, I wasn't able to think about it too much. I was, brought back home. I think they noticed the McDonald's, so they got me something on the way back. When I know it came from their own salaries. Not everybody said the Canadians aren't nice. But still, I came home. My brother was on me immediately. But the main one I remember was my mom. Oh, my baby girl. I'm so glad you're home. I'm so glad you're safe from those monsters. And I didn't respond atypically to that. They weren't monsters, Mom. They were people. Don't worry, nothing under the bed got me. My my mom didn't react so great to that. But, well, I noticed from that my response wasn't what she expected. Nor the police officers at the scene. I was odd. And my mom continued on different occasions. I want those sociopaths thrown in jail. Disgrace for all time. Not even tomb's gonna be made to those monsters. Mom, I told you, I wasn't kidnapped by monsters. They were doing it for a reason, too. Also, what's a sociopath? Never really got an answer on that. But after enough times of that, my mom decided that I must have had, what was it, Stockholm Syndrome. Sent me to multiple therapists for it. And each and every time, my mother would be thrown back a certain statement. That Stockholm Syndrome wasn't real. That I couldn't be suffering from it. Do that. However, my mother was convinced the only reason that I'd have empathy with such creatures was if I had such a condition. Eventually, she settled down a bit. Not much. However, that word, she used it so often. Sociopath. And I wondered, what did that term mean? What could a term like that possibly have in connection towards people which are trying to help somebody else by ransoming me? I knew what a ransom was, after all. I had watched movies. But that term didn't seem to fit. So, sometimes, in my lessons, when, with a therapist, that she'd just throw me on for that week, I'd ask them what the term meant. Some were illuminating, others not so. And through careful practice on YouTube and Google, though spacing out between months, I was eventually able to figure out on shortly after my 8th birthday, that I was one. That I was this type of monster my mother so feared. And since then, I haven't met a single monster like me. Well, or a monster period, I suppose. Always wanted to find one. After all, with how interesting I am, certainly there must be somebody else of similar interest, or fascinating viewpoint. Never found one, though. Till you. Oh, I wasn't even sure you were one, to be clear. But gods, I'm so happy. Genuinely. Oh, you were going to be such fun. But I wasn't done, was I? So, eventually, after I figured out that, I spent some time mulling it over. And then, later, well, I found that some things sat a little too well. And after all, as that police officer said, what child would feel nothing at being kidnapped? It'd be normal to be traumatized by such a thing. yet I didn't show any signs. And the same thing with somebody dying in front of you. You should have a reaction. You should be crying. You should break down. But I never did. Even thinking of it later. Still, thinking of that incident doesn't make me react as one should. Though, yeah, I'll go into that on a later date. Anywho, because of all those thoughts and viewpoints, I eventually decided on one night that I'd be going on a walk. I really should have kept an eye on the forecast, I suppose. Wasn't keeping enough analysis sources, I suppose. However, there's no chance of them. They're asleep, and this may be the only chance for months or a year. Suppose just wear something heavier. And this. Nobody asks why you wanted to pick up lock picking. Suppose it's normal for somebody in my experience. Let's go. And needless to say, I went on a walk, and oh, hey, bro. Hi. You're here? You're not. I'm just surprised. You're on time for once. Oh my god. Or mostly on time. Yeah, don't worry. I had some pancakes from the lovely little baker here. She's actually really good. You wanna go say hi? Mm-hmm. But I am so eating more food when we get home. Definitely, definitely. Anyway, I'll be right back up, okay? Maybe you can meet her and say hi, okay? Okay, ciao. And I suppose that's time. So, would you mind coming up with me? I'd rather not get stabbed or drugged again by your parents, which are probably in on this. And I hope you know I will be coming back for us to talk. Oh, doll. I've lived so long without seeing a fellow monster. Do you really think I'll give you up so easy? If so, you've thought wrong. I'll be seeing you at school tomorrow, I suppose. Oh, come on. We have a performance to put on, don't we? Hey, so, one, don't worry. We will be continuing to explore this backstory of our character later, when the character actually, fucking trusts you. So it's gonna take a few parts, but you're gonna get the rest of this. And perhaps expanding on a few different things, because if you notice, the character never really talked about how they felt about everything, did they? They were more talking about the events, not how they felt about them. That could be an interesting thing maybe to explore later. Maybe I perfectly set that up for me to more do that later. Who knows? Who knows? However, I also want to do one more thing here. And the reason why this outro more exists, I want the series to be infotainment, as I told you in the last part. So I feel I have the responsibility to clear up some things on whether I've exaggerated anything, or if this is a real experience that sociopaths go through. So, for now, I hope you can set some time aside as I educate you, or whatever, about how it actually works. So, first off, the one exaggeration that I've more made here is that the character kind of figured things out really quickly. If you didn't notice, they figured out they were a sociopath after simply 1 year of questioning it. And while for this character it does make sense, after all, they were through a traumatic situation that forced them to more question it, given the term early on, and then also went to therapy. multiple therapists, and from there was able to deduce that they were an actual sociopath. The thing is, that doesn't. Speaking just from my own experience and from a few other people which I know, which are sociopaths, which I've met briefly, you don't come to that answer that quickly. So simply talking from my own experiences, I started questioning when I was around 10. One simple thing, because of two reasons. The first one was that nobody really wanted to interact with me in my own grade group. And I realized when I was 10 that it wasn't because that I was doing some social faux pas, that I was messing up social stuff, it's just people didn't want to hang out with me. So I started asking myself, did I do anything? And I started looking back on when I was younger. And I will tell you, it's a lot easier to look back on the past when you are 10, looking towards when you were 7 or 6. And a few things there were very off. After all, while I was able to learn how to mask some things when I was 10, when I was much younger, at 6 or 7, my masking skills for my condition were pathetic, non-existent. And while people weren't able to really figure out that I was a sociopath back then, I was the weird kid that would say things and talk in ways that other people just simply didn't. Now, I will talk about that more at a later point in time in its own dedicated video, but I myself, at that age, was able to realize certain oddities. Again, from going in and spending dedicated time trying to remember what I did when I was younger. The second one is that I realized that I didn't react the way other kids did. What I mean by that is that there'd be many things that would make other kids cry or go over and have large reactions, tantrums, whatever, and I simply didn't. I'd get angry, I'd get sad, but I wouldn't have these large emotional highs that everyone else was having. Or, if I did, it was simply one word away from being stopped. I used to get into fights as a kid. Like, I would literally go over and throw gravel at somebody's face. For many years, I had an indent even on my face to remember it. But all it took was one single talk. One single talk. For me to go to a rambunctious kid that was throwing fists and doing everything else. And one single talk about how to calm my emotions that suddenly made it so I wasn't fighting anyone anymore. That's weird. No kid calms down that much from just one talk. So, I eventually figured out sociopathy was a possible answer when I was 11. But I will admit, I more dismissed it out of hand. But it was something that was stuck in my mind. Eventually, when I was 15, an incident more occurred, which made it so it was a lot harder to ignore that possibility. And especially since, from when I was 11 to 15, I had systematically went through every single possibility that I could. Everything else that wasn't being a sociopath and trying to figure out, does that fit or not? And one possible answer I did come up towards was autism, which I shall simply state, you can have both. But the perfect overlay wasn't there. I went for a lot of other mental conditions, and other attitude-type problems, such as me just not being reactive or anything else, but none of them fit. Eventually, when I was 15, I knew in my heart of hearts, after a certain incident I'll talk about later, that I was a sociopath. However, due to all the social stigma attached towards the title, I didn't accept it. I kept saying to myself that I'm a good person, I try to help people, I fight bullies, I go out of my way to try and help people in, like, studying or something when I can. I'm trying to be good, I can't be a sociopath. But I had the same conviction as a closeted gay who simply can't accept it due to the fact that, to them, from what they've grown up with, being gay requires, even, you to be a devil worshipper, animal sacrifices, going over and doing drugs is required to be gay. But I hope that I don't have to say this towards anyone who listens towards my gay shit, but those aren't real things, are they? You can be gay and not do any of those. I find it that they're very rare for it to be a gay person that does animal sacrifices. That's very rare, actually. But still, due to all these associations, I didn't accept myself until I was 17. And even then, it was more by luck. After all, I met a real-life psychopath. A registered one, by the way. And I realized that I related very heavily with him. Not perfectly, mind you. And that we had very different conclusions about how we look at humanity, which I will talk about more in the next part when the backstory comes up. Which is not the next part, to be clear. It's going to probably be like 2 or 3 parts until like the character opens up about their backstory. Not quite figured it out yet. But it's going to be a while. But I realized then that this person wasn't evil from being a psychopath. And if they weren't evil for being a psychopath, why should I have to be evil to be a sociopath? And that's when I finally accepted it for myself. That you don't need to be evil to be one. It's just simply a mental condition. So, from there, I've been able to accept myself and move on. And hopefully, things like this series can help other people with the stigma. But I said there was 2 things, right? The other exaggeration people may assume is there is not being able to feel things, right? I talked about that a little bit earlier, but what do I mean by that? There are some times where I know I should feel something, but I don't. Now, of course for me, I've never been kidnapped, so the grand realization like this never happened to me. I've never seen somebody die in front of me, so that too was nothing that happened to me. But remember how I said that when I was 15, a certain event happened? Well, it was late in me being 15. I believe my birthday was like 3 or 4 months later. And I would have turned 16, and, but we had a death in the family. Extended family on one side of it. I didn't know them that well. We never really visited. And I realized I felt nothing. And I realized for the next month and a half, I couldn't feel anything at all. I'd still laugh, I could still pretend that I felt things. Nobody really realized anything was up. Perhaps I mostly would figure out that I was reading more books than I normally would. Even when it was generally more inappropriate, but that isn't that weird for me. And I cannot tell you how the world is when you can't feel things. It is not the world in black and white, as some may imagine, but you can only see blue, black, and white. There is still some color, but it's only a specific shade. And luckily, I was able to feel things before that month and a half. So I could assume certain things, I could guesswork. But let me give an easy example. Imagine that you're on the road, and you think you know exactly how the traffic lights are. And whenever light is on, you know where to go. But as somebody who's been to a few different cities, I can tell you, sometimes they flip. Sometimes at the bottom will be the red, sometimes it will be on the top. And you just have to guess. And you have no way of actually knowing which one is which. It is a world of boredom and fright. Because you have no way to understand anyone. No tools, no nothing. Luckily, after a month and a half, for whatever reason, I do not know, I was suddenly able to feel my emotions again. It was a weaker thing at first, but I remember that I cried happy tears then. But that experience of looking back on things and knowing you should feel something and just not being able to, that is also my experience. And that specific incident of a month and a half of not feeling your emotions, perhaps that is also what this character went through. Maybe, who knows? The kids, like, they were a kid, they can't know for certain. I only knew because I was much older. So, where do I go with this? Are both of these true? The answer is yes. And I need to remind you of one thing. That maybe there's a reason it only really hit me when I was 15. While I've never had anything of that same level of not feeling anything for a month and a half. There's been multiple incidents, which I now recognize from that experience, where I just don't feel things. And the answer is pretty simple. It's something that a lot of sociopaths go through. When we're in a threatening situation, when we feel threatened, and we start feeling extreme emotions, our body will shut that down. After all, our lizard brain understands we feel like we're in danger, we feel overwhelmed. And feeling this amount of emotion, this larger reaction at this point in time, that's not going to help us survive. So the lizard brain cuts it off. This is not something that most people go through, but every single sociopath which I've met has this built in. So, maybe that was it. Of course, I can never know for certain, but I assume it was just a more stronger version of that from one of the first times that really kicked in full force. And, I'll tell you this. As I said, every sociopath has this. It's one of my character, too. All I'm going to say is in the next part, you may find the characters very different than what you've seen from this part and the last. After all, well, for some reason, there could be a reason that maybe the character feels threatened right now, maybe being locked in the basement with the Yandere that had the knife and still has the knife. So, maybe I'll fear to see, a different side towards them. Soon. Anyway, this is the end of the infotainment. I'm sorry this is like fucking, how long is I been talking about specifically on this section? Fucking 14 minutes, at least on less than 15. But I wanted to make sure that if I'm doing infotainment, I'm doing it right. Anyway, I'm going to be going for now and recording the main audio. So, see ya. Hopefully I did a good job. Tell me in the comment section, okay? Bye-bye.